Guten Tag guys and welcome back to yet another hunt tips video. Today I got 8 more, is that right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, apparently 8 more hunt tips for you. But as I said last time in the second tips video, I really believe that the tips from the first video are the most important ones. So make sure to check that video out. That being said, let's get into the new tips. If you're trying to be sneaky, then be as sneaky as you can. Half-assing your sneakiness is useless. It's like tracking calories. If you ain't doing it properly, you might not be doing it at all. I see and hear it so often, from teammates and enemy hunters alike. They don't run, they don't walk, sometimes they do not even crouch walk, but sit still in one place, trying to be quiet. But as they are nervous or whatever, they switch their gun every 5 seconds, or they go in and out of ADS a few times. All of these are audible. If you make noise, you might as well not be sneaky and thus be a harder target to shoot. Because being semi-sneaky still means that a good hunter hears you, but also means that usually you are an easier target. Let's stick with the scenario we just talked about, but just switch to the guy that just might or might have not heard something. Usually, especially if you're a couple hundred hours in, if you think you heard something, you probably did. Sometimes you chat with your mates and you're not super concentrated and you think, did I hear something? You're all quiet for a few seconds, but you don't want to be paranoid. It's probably nothing. You go on cruising the Bayou and chat ahead. Well, guess what? You just made the day of the sniper team behind you that thought they fucked up because they triggered a horse. But turns out, you fucked up. This might seem like an easy tip, but somehow taking this lesson to heart is hard. My mates and I talked about this so many times already. Still, we often get ambushed only to find out that one of us heard something but did not want to say as he was not sure. Yes, you heard something. Staying on the audio and hearing topic, say you're heading to the boss and you hear something 1 compound behind you. Hunters are also marching towards the lair. What do? Ambush, right? Well, maybe. It can be a great play if you know exactly where they will be going, if you have a good position, and if you're sure they don't know where you are. But I will claim that all of this is probably less often the case than you might think. Not like if you think an ambush is a good idea, that's only the case 10% of the time, but maybe something like 70 or 60% of the time. Pulling these numbers straight out of my butt, by the way. What do I mean? First up, not everybody will go the path you expect them to. So your ambush might turn into waiting for nothing. And even if they go where you expect them to, if they are still a bit away and digging around, it might take them a while. Not kidding, I have seen hunters take almost 10 minutes to go through 1 compound and get a single clue before moving on. Sure, an ambush can still be successful, but in that time you could have already killed the boss, set traps, and have an even better position. On positioning, if you're ambushing, make sure your position is good even once the shooting begins. Stealth is nice, but positioning is key. Also remember from tip 7 from the first video, you're not owed a kill. Ambushing does not mean you win the fight. I have both won fights when being disgustingly ambushed, as well as lost ambushes we set that should have been a sure thing. Ambushes are often a great play, but not quite as often as you might think. If you get shot, usually you want to heal. But healing slows you down. So what do? You go to cover, preferably something that people cannot shoot through, and that obscures you from enemy sight. That might not always be near you when being shot at, so what do you do when you're in a field, for example? Well, if it's a well-mowed field, chances are you're gonna be mowed down too. But if there is something that hides you from enemy sight, like corn, even when not protecting you from direct shots, that might just do. Reeds next to water also can often serve as cover. Things like this are usually called soft cover, and the other cover is hard cover. You don't need to be safe to heal. Hidden is sometimes enough. Also on that point, I found that running just as much as you have to and then immediately crouching and walking just a bit in a different direction and then healing is a good move, as no one expects you to do that. Usually people run in the soft cover for quite a bit before healing to have an even better hidden position or whatever. If you have hard cover, of course, use that. But instead of running 20 meters while low, a bush will low. Okay, I have to admit that this tip is probably not something you have not heard before, though it's probably something you're not doing and certainly something I'm not doing as often as I should. Coordinate your first shot with your mates. If the other team is unexpecting, you have a window where you can strike without backlash. But this is a very short window. in the order of a few seconds. So if you shoot and get shot back at before your mates are in position, well, you had 1 free shot. If you're together, you have 2 or 3, increasing the opportunity of getting the first kill and starting the fight already at an advantage. Not only because you get more shots before getting shot, but also because getting 2 body shots is usually way easier than getting 1 headshot. Just for completion's sake, sure, sometimes the opportunity to strike does not allow you to wait until your mate is done humping that hive or petting the dogs. Not saying you should always wait, but sometimes a bit of patience and teamwork goes a long way. Change sucks. Okay, maybe that's just my inner psychological damage speaking and other people can cope with it just fine, I don't know. But I would certainly say that the hunt community has been one to be very skeptical about new things. And honestly, I think overall that's a good thing. A lot of new things suck. What's wrong with me? But honestly, a lot of new things are not so great. Or at least not balanced great. But still, you should try them. Certainly at the point where they're not even really new anymore. I can, for example, remember a time where a lot of people, me of course included, thought that the region shot would be meh at best. I think even Psycho Ghost was not a fan in the beginning. But now, I think they're probably equally as popular as health shots, if not more. Same goes for guns. Often, unless it's super cool or overpowered, like the crack silencer, people avoid new stuff once the shiny new thing syndrome is gone, of course. I get it, I have problems with change too. But keep in mind that if new things suck, they do so because they have not been tested. So test them. Then, if they suck, you can not just whine, but give detailed feedback and criticism that actually might have an impact. And on the off chance that something is actually nice, you have a new go-to consumable, tool or gun. Also, I will not apply this point to real life or to any other game.
Das bleibt alles so, wie es hier ist.
Also, what happened to the test servers? Now, to be honest, I generally like my hunt rather immersive. Not necessarily to the point where you have no HUD, but for example, the quick swapping matter or the sneak jumping thing that one could do with Lightfoot back in the day really grinded my gears. So this tip is actually something I'm not super happy as possible. Nevertheless, it's a good tip and I use it occasionally. Say you want to push a building, maybe the boss layer. If hunters hear you approach, they will be ready. But there is nothing really you can do to make them not hear you. Sounds are proximity based, so if you're close enough, they hear you. Sure, they might just be having a conversation over Discord and thus hear less, but how could you know? There is no reliable way of knowing that something else obstructs their hearing capability. Or is there? Well, there is. It's, drumroll, the start vanishing sound. You get it, and you know everybody else has it too. It does not last for a long time, and more often than not, you're not in control as to when it happens. But as soon as you see the vanishing banner, you know you have about 3 seconds or so where your movements will likely not be heard. If you're in a stalemate or a sticky situation, use it. 3 seconds gives you enough time to move to a spot they will not expect. Of course, you can also do this when an explosion happens or with the vanishing sound that the boss corpse itself makes, but I found that the start vanishing sound is more obstructing and it also affects everyone the same. Adding to the tip of meme it from last video, where my tip for not getting salty when losing was to take some random shit and try to have fun. Another way of dealing with a hunt taketh day or week, hopefully not month, is to have a go-to gun or guns that you feel very comfortable with. Sure, this does not mean you will win, but in my experience with a weapon greatly reduces the amount of times where you make an ignorant mistake that kills you, like leading too much or too little, for example. And sometimes the comfort of knowing you know your gun gives you the confidence you need to turn it into a hunt giveth day, week, and hopefully month. My 3 go-to guns are the Silenced Vetterli, the Sparks, and the Winfield, or whatever it's called now. The Silenced Vetterli I use if my aim sucks that day, and it basically makes missed shots less bad, as your first shot doesn't necessarily give your position away. The Winfield also allows for a single shot to be less impactful, as you shoot quite fast and have a lot of bullets. It's also a great all-rounder and allows for a fun secondary like the hammer. Actually, the Vetterli also kind of does that, but it might impact your 15 meters fighting ability a bit. And the Sparks, just because I feel very comfortable with it. Simple as that. I probably played the most with it overall, so I feel very in tune with it. Even though it's not as forgiving as the others, it just feels like home. One last point on these go-to guns, I would generally advise you to pick a less expensive gun, because if you're on a losing streak and then you take expensive loadouts, somehow losing with them feels even worse. So if your go-to gun is a Mosin sniper and you're having a bad day and then you still lose a few rounds, well, your day ain't getting better. So maybe pick something like a Springfield marksman if you're into sniping, and maybe pick something like a Romero or a Caldwell and not an Auto 5 if you're into shotguns. I hope you like the new tips. Let me know what you think. Definitely check out the first and maybe also the second tips video. Have a great day. Das war's für heute. Thanks for watching.
Was für ein Motherfucker.